In the heart of Gallia, a city square thirsts for royal blood. A figure in immaculate armor gives a simple, chilling command. Power crackles from his very being, a storm contained in a man. The energy surges, arcing towards the instrument of death. His magic imbues the blade, preparing it for its grim task. Another life is extinguished, just one of nearly 100. With another snap, the count rises, relentless and cold. The fallen noble's last thoughts are of a revolution that failed. Their betrayal came not from an enemy, but from within their own ranks. He addresses the roaring crowd, a liberator standing on a pile of corpses. He proclaims the end of an era of oppression, and in its place, he promises an age of liberation. He steps forward, his presence commanding the stage. The crowd roars in approval, their cries echoing through the square. Their faces are twisted with rage, demanding blood and fire. But from the shadows, another figure emerges with a different perspective. He's bound by powerful magic, a prisoner of this new order. His eyes hold a bitter truth. The crowd is being played. This is Isaac Quincy, the king's first counsel, having a very bad day. He's a captive of the very people claiming to be liberators. Isaac reveals these liberators are a front for a single noble family. The Desaxes, the true tyrants who have pulled the strings for centuries. They've whipped the common folk into a revolutionary frenzy, using the chaos as a pretext to slaughter all their opponents. And now, the leader prepares the crowd for his final dramatic act. He presents his grand prize, the captured king and his royal council. But Isaac knows the crown is just a prop for their new puppet ruler. The leader then throws fuel on the fire with a shocking accusation. He claims the royals allied with demons, which is always a crowd pleaser, sacrificing thousands of their own people in a thirst for power. The leader condemns the royals, his voice booming over the frenzied square. But Isaac knows the truth, his eyes burning with the knowledge of their lies. The clandestine meetings with demons were nothing but a convenient fiction. A perfect excuse to serve the royal council to the bloodthirsty mob. Yet a smirk crosses Isaac's face. They failed to capture the kingdom's secret weapon. A fellow captive, Elizabeth, questions if their last hope will even arrive. Isaac is certain, insisting their ally is hidden somewhere in the crowd. A guard shoves him forward, silencing any further whispers of rebellion. The leader laments the waste because he's a creep on top of being a tyrant. He grabs Elizabeth's face, telling her she only has minutes left to live. The leader makes a vile suggestion for her final moments, but a voice cuts through the tension, demanding he unhand her. He shoves Elizabeth aside, still taunting his captives with cruel words. And just like that, the mysterious newcomer's patience has run out. The leader tries to call his soldiers, but his command is cut short. A storm of golden lightning erupts, blasting everyone on the platform. The tyrant is caught in the blast, his helmet cracking under the pressure. His men realize in horror that their prisoner is shattering the restraint charm. The guards scramble to reinforce the spell, their only plan being more magic. The red-haired man strains, fighting against the renewed power of his bonds. He realizes the magical charm is specifically designed to inhibit his power. The guards close in, their leader demanding he cease his futile struggle. But a confident smirk spreads across his face as he taunts them. He tells them their time is up because someone else is coming. His thoughts drift to Silas Montfort, his best friend and the strongest of them all. We see a flashback to their academy days where their powers first began to bloom. Silas's life was shattered when the Desax family ordered the murder of his parents. United by a common enemy, they became brothers in arms, fighting their way up. Their shared goal was to end the tyranny by dismantling it from the inside. But their noble quest was cut short by a devastating betrayal. The flashback ends with his capture, surrounded and overwhelmed by enemy knights. But his thoughts remain on Silas, who is still free, his true power a secret from their foes. Back in the present, the leader turns his attention to the next victim on his list. He presents another of the king's council to the bloodthirsty crowd, painting him as a tyrant who brought only famine and ruin to the kingdom. And the next head on the chopping block is none other than Isaac Quincy. Isaac stands defiant, his magical bonds glowing as he prepares for what's to come. He knows he just has to hold on. Silas will be here at any moment. The leader asks for last words, but Isaac just smirks, telling him not to be so confident. He reveals their fatal error. They failed to capture the strongest of them all, Silas. The leader pauses, the name Silas Montfort echoing in his helmet. The red-haired captive's eyes widen, reflecting the image of an armored man. He removes his helmet, revealing the face of their last hope, Silas Montfort. His friend's world shatters, his mind refusing to accept the impossible truth. But Silas only smirks, twisting their shared history into a cruel joke. Even Isaac is stunned as Silas casually dismisses their desperate faith in him. He admits he was following their plan all along, just for a different team. His eyes are cold as he reveals his motive. The Desaxes were more convincing. He dons his helmet once more, becoming the faceless tyrant they fought against. His former brother-in-arms can only stare, crushed by the ultimate betrayal. The captive's mind flashes back, recalling their 20-year bond. They were brothers in arms, resting after another hard-won battle. But in the present, Silas's smile is cold and empty. He tells his old friend not to take it personally. Business is business. And with that, he orders his former brother to the guillotine. The captive finally screams his name, the betrayal sinking in like a knife. He realizes Silas has single-handedly doomed all of their comrades. His grief instantly curdles into pure, unadulterated rage. Silas remains unmoved, a monument to his own treachery. Fueled by fury, the captive unleashes a torrent of raw, destructive power. A single point of burning hatred reflects in his eye. The platform erupts as his rage takes a monstrous form. He roars, his face twisted by grief and raw, untamed power. The shockwave tears through the stage, sending bodies flying. The guards cry out in disbelief as he shatters his restraints. Free at last, he lunges forward with murderous intent. A knight brings his sword down, aiming to end the rampage. But the blade stops dead just inches from its target. His eyes burn with a defiance that borders on insanity. He catches the steel sword with his teeth, which is not great for his dental plan. He shatters the steel blade with a single furious bite. Silas orders his soldiers to subdue the rampaging captive, but he moves like a phantom, cutting them down in a blur of red. The command changes from capture to kill as archers take aim. His eyes burn with a cold fire, all emotion replaced by vengeance. He summons a whip of pure energy, deflecting their volley with ease. His rage manifests, taking the form of a spectral beast. The creature slams down, obliterating everything in its path. He stands amidst the chaos, a maelstrom of magic and fury. Panicked, the guards scramble to reinforce the inhibition charm. The guards finally manage to surround him, their magic circles flaring to life. He screams out his anguish, reminding Silas of their broken brotherhood. But Silas is completely unmoved, deciding it's time to end this little drama. The combined weight of their spells forces the captive to his knees. Silas decides to take matters into his own hands, weaving a powerful spell. A massive golden sigil erupts beneath his former friend, amplifying the restraints. The spell slams down with immense force, pinning him to the wooden stage. He struggles against the overwhelming pressure, his body screaming in protest. Silas muses that if you want a job done right, you have to do it yourself. The new golden restraints bind him completely, leaving him utterly powerless. Silas grabs his former friend, the golden sigil burning with absolute power. He's tossed effortlessly across the stage, a broken toy for a new tyrant. Forced into the guillotine, he demands to know why he was betrayed. Silas walks away, coldly assuring him that he did nothing wrong. He was merely a pawn in a much larger, more ruthless game. A pawn, Silas clarifies, that had finally outlived his usefulness. With a familiar, chilling snap of his fingers, the final order is given. The blade falls in a flash, ending the life of a betrayed hero. His last thoughts are of disbelief as his world fades to black, a final silent protest against an end he never saw coming. But his spirit refuses to be extinguished, igniting a final spark in the void. His eyes snap open, finding himself not in oblivion but somewhere else entirely. He awakens to a world of fire and chaos, wondering if this is his final judgment. He stumbles through the inferno, recalling his life's purpose, to fight tyranny. A bitter laugh escapes him. His reward for being a hero is a one-way ticket to hell. The chaos swirls around him as bodies fall and buildings burn to the ground. He's thrown to the dirt, completely overwhelmed by the nightmarish scene. He collapses to his knees, insisting that he doesn't deserve this cruel fate. A memory cuts through the noise, a voice warning Isaac to take cover during an attack. But he realizes this isn't just hell, it's the destruction of his own village. He recognizes the armor of the attackers, Count Ravel's eastern faction. A desperate voice screams at him, trying to break him from his trance. But young Isaac is frozen, paralyzed by the horror unfolding around him. He remembers the boy's name, Gabin, his childhood best friend. A friend he lost 20 years ago on this very night. In the memory, Gabin tries to drag him away from the carnage, but an armored hand yanks his friend back into the fray. Gabin is thrown against a wall with brutal, unforgiving force. He gasps in pain, the impact knocking the wind out of him. His eyes widen in sheer terror at the figure standing before him. An armored giant steps forward, his shadow falling over the terrified boy. He raises a massive axe, declaring this the fate of all who defy Count Ravel. Our hero watches in horror, his lost friend's name a pained whisper. But as the blade descends, a figure finally breaks free from his paralysis. He snatches a fallen shield from the dirt, ready to change the past. In a flash of movement, he intercepts the fatal blow meant for Gabin. The knight pauses, surprised by this sudden and impossible intervention. Our hero follows through, slamming a fist into the soldier's chest plate. The armored giant stumbles back, staggering from the unexpected force, but he looks at his own hand, wondering why his attack felt so weak. He stares at his hands, a horrifying realization dawning. His powers are gone. The knight grabs him by the hair, mockingly complimenting his passable technique. He laments that such insolence means our hero won't live to become a soldier. But our hero isn't listening. A thought flashes through his mind about his face. He touches his cheek, confirming the impossible. The scar he's had for years is gone. A familiar voice screams for a young Isaac Quincy to run for his life. The knight ignores the child, bringing his massive axe down on his current target. With no magic and no strength, our hero braces for an end he can't stop. But in the last possible second, a hand intercepts the descending blade. The axe is stopped cold, caught by an unseen figure with impossible strength. The mysterious savior struggles, realizing he must rely on technique, not strength. The armored giant seems unimpressed by this last-minute rescue attempt. He scoffs at the effort, pushing down with overwhelming, brutal force. The knight promises a grim end as the swordsman strains against the blade, but a memory flashes in the swordsman's mind, a key piece of information. He recalls a fatal flaw in the armor design, a weak point at the neck. In a split second, he pivots on his heel, preparing to turn the tables. He dodges under the massive swing, letting the knight's momentum carry the blow wide. His eyes narrow with lethal intent as the perfect opening presents itself, and his blade strikes true, hitting the vulnerable gap with a sickening crunch. The mysterious swordsman urges the boy to grab a weapon and fight. He reflects on his 2 decades of battlefield experience, and he proves that all that training hasn't gone to waste. The knight's blood splatters across the swordsman's blade. He stands over the fallen soldier, a whirlwind of deadly motion. His eyes are cold and focused, a seasoned killer in his element. Gabin, completely stunned, asks Isaac where he learned such incredible moves. Our hero, still in Isaac's body, can only stare, unsure how to explain any of this. A hand reaches out, snapping him back to the present moment. It's Gabin, alive and smiling, and our hero is overwhelmed with relief. Gabin just assumes his friend is in shock from the brutal fight, but our hero's mind is racing, accepting the impossible truth. He has somehow traveled back in time 20 years. His last memory is of the scaffold, bound by Silas's golden magic. He remembers the fall of the blade, the moment he was executed. A hand on his shoulder snaps him out of his grim recollection. Gabin urges him to move, reminding him their families are in danger. But the chaos of the past rages on around them unabated. Gabin can only watch in horror as their home is torn apart. Our hero realizes he's returned to the day his life's crusade began. He remembers the original timeline, the day his best friend was cut down. It was also the day he lost his parents, a memory seared into his soul. But Gabin's desperate cry pulls him back to the present chaos. He doesn't know how or why he's been sent back to this nightmare. But all that matters now is rewriting this bloody history. Fueled by a second chance, he sprints towards the danger. He remembers the man he was, one of the most powerful warriors in Gallia. Now he's back in his teenage body, which is a serious downgrade. A time before his powers had awakened, before he'd even seen the academy. Right now, he's just a peasant boy with nothing but his wits and memories. A bolt of golden energy slams into the ground with devastating force. But our hero's eyes are sharp, his instincts honed by years of war. He shoves Gabin to safety just as the street erupts in a shower of sparks. Tossing his friend aside, he puts himself between Gabin and the danger. Peeking from cover, he realizes they're dealing with a powerful noble. This is Zevald, the Count's son, radiating pure destructive energy. A pair of villagers plead for their home, their only possession in the world. But Zevald just sneers, clearly enjoying their desperation. He offers them a simple, horrifying choice regarding their home. If they won't give it up, he'll just burn them alive inside it, because he's a great guy. With a brutal kick, Zevald sends the helpless couple into the flames. Our hero recognizes the man, recalling how he butchered that family in the original timeline. But he's powerless, a warrior's mind trapped in a body that can't fight back. Thinking fast, Isaac tells Gabin they need to escape to his house via the rooftops. The 2 boys sprint across the tiles, desperate to stay out of sight. But their escape route is cut off by a patrol of the Count's soldiers. He realizes with dawning horror that they've already reached his home. Gabin panics, insisting they need to find help instead of rushing in. But Isaac's eyes are cold and calculating, his mind already forming a plan. He assesses the threat, common foot soldiers, not magic-wielding nobles. He may have lost his powers, but his 20 years of battlefield memories are very much intact. Without a moment's hesitation, he lands on the roof of his childhood home. He spots his entry point, a window on the upper floor. Isaac crashes through the glass, making a rather dramatic entrance. His eyes lock onto the scene inside, his mother held captive by a soldier. He quickly counts the hostiles as one of them chokes the life from his mother. His father rushes in, desperately trying to free his wife from the soldier's grip. A third soldier turns, completely blindsided by the boy who just came through the window. Isaac lands a powerful kick, surprising the soldier who ordered him dealt with. Apparently, peasants aren't supposed to fight back. He grabs the nearest weapon he can find, a simple kitchen knife. The soldier scoffs, daring the peasant boy to even try to fight back. But Isaac's blade finds the gap in his armor with deadly, practiced precision. 1 down, 2 to go. His expression is that of a seasoned killer, not a child. The remaining soldiers stare in shock, apparently not used to the food fighting back. Wasting no time, Isaac lunges at the next target, a blur of motion. The soldier draws his sword, preparing to meet the boy's charge. The kitchen knife clashes against steel, a testament to Isaac's superior skill, but his battlefield instincts scream a warning of an attack from behind. The third soldier moves in for the kill, thinking he has the boy trapped. Pinned between two blades, Isaac finds himself in a deadly stalemate. Thinking fast, Isaac uses the soldier's own body as a brace to kick upwards. He launches himself into the air, letting the two soldiers' attacks collide. Unable to stop his momentum, the rear soldier cuts down his own comrade. He lands behind the last soldier, pressing the kitchen knife to his throat. A cold smile crosses his face as he tells the man it's his lucky day. He never dreamed he'd get to see his family alive and well again. And with a single decisive slash, he ends the threat permanently. The second soldier finally collapses, a victim of his own team's incompetence. His family calls out his name, a mix of shock and overwhelming relief. He pulls them into an embrace, overwhelmed by a reunion 20 years in the making. Isaac's father is understandably confused about where his son learned to fight like a seasoned killer. Isaac dodges the question because "I'm a time traveler" is a tough conversation to have mid-massacre. He takes command, telling his family their only chance is to make a run for the forest. A critical piece of information from his past life suddenly surfaces in his mind. He remembers that the only survivors of the original massacre were those who fled into the woods. Seeing Gavin, he quickly tells his friend to come with them to safety. He reassures Gavin that his parents are already safe, their house being right at the forest's edge. But a grim memory returns. While Gavin parents survived, Gavin himself did not. He makes a silent vow that this time his friend will make it home. The small group sprints towards the tree line, leaving the burning chaos of their village behind. Isaac's eyes burn with resolve. He has a second chance, and he won't waste it. They reach a small camp of survivors, a brief moment of peace in the chaos. Isaac tells his family to wait here while he scouts ahead. Gavin is confused by his friend's sudden, uncharacteristic leadership, but the other survivors suddenly feel weak, their vision blurring. The adrenaline finally wears off, and Isaac's teenage body gives out. He collapses into unconsciousness, the day's horrors finally catching up to him. His mind drifts back to the scaffold, to the moment of his ultimate failure. He remembers his comrades, bound and helpless just like him, and he remembers Silas's final cruel words, branding him a useless pawn. The blade falls, a final brutal end to his first life. Silas's voice echoes in his mind, a cruel farewell to his oldest friend, but it's Gavin's desperate cry that pulls him back to the present. He awakens to the gentle light filtering through the forest canopy. Isaac groggily pushes himself up, the nightmare of his past life still fresh. He confirms the impossible. He's truly been sent back 20 years in time. But this time, he has the knowledge of a seasoned warrior and a future to rewrite. He vows to succeed, but first he needs to get his powers back. You know, that minor detail. His eyes snap open, a sudden sound breaking his concentration. He shouts a warning to the others. The Count's guards have found them. Isaac's eyes narrow with grim certainty. The hunt is far from over. He steps forward only to find his friend Gavin kneeling in the dirt. He calls out his friend's name, a question hanging in the air. His father explains the grim truth. The soldiers got to Gavin's parents. Isaac's mind reels, refusing to accept this new, horrifying reality. He remembers with absolute certainty that in his first life they survived. His father tries to comfort him, suggesting he give Gavin some time alone. But Isaac can only stare, his friend's grief a stark reminder of his failure. The timeline is fracturing, his memories no longer a reliable guide. He demands to know why they didn't escape when their house was so close to safety, his father explains, his expression heavy with the grim details. The Count's son, Zevald, found his fallen soldiers and flew into a rage. And Isaac realizes with crushing certainty that this is all his fault. In saving his own parents, he inadvertently signed the death warrant for Gavin's. He slams his foot into the ground, overcome with guilt and helplessness. The peaceful forest canopy seems to mock his inner turmoil. He looks to the heavens, addressing whatever cosmic force sent him back. He questions if this second chance is a gift, or just a crueler punishment. But his father's hand on his shoulder pulls him back from his despair. He reminds Isaac that the true villains are the Ravels, the architects of this tragedy. His father's words are a balm, telling Isaac he's proud of him for saving Gavin. The praise cuts through his despair, reminding him he can't just lament his fate. He clenches his fist, vowing to use his 20 years of bitter experience to crush their enemies. He knows he has to make the most of his one true advantage, and that starts with reawakening his powers, since he can barely handle one soldier right now. A new vow forms, reflected in his eyes. This time, he will protect them all. His thoughts turn to Madeline, his little sister, a painful reminder of his past failures. After their parents' deaths, his blind quest for vengeance led him to leave her behind. She was left in the care of the village alderman, the man in charge. A man who, at first glance, seems like a perfectly trustworthy village elder. But Isaac only learned later that the alderman was a monster in disguise. He sold Madeline to the Count's men, who continued the cycle of cruelty. Her cries for the brother who never came went completely unanswered. And in the end, the weight of it all became too much for her to bear. The memory fades and Isaac's eyes snap back to the present. He makes a silent, unbreakable promise to his sister's memory. And then he sees her, alive and well, standing right in front of him. Overwhelmed, he pulls her into a hug, vowing to never make the same mistake. But a sudden thought cuts through his relief like a shard of ice. A desperate man's cry for his own sister shatters the reunion. The boy explains his sister is now in the care of the village alderman. And Isaac realizes with horror that saving his family has condemned Gabbins. He grabs Gabbin, frantically warning him that the alderman is not to be trusted. But Gabbin is confused, reminding him the man is their respected village leader. And speak of the devil, the alderman himself arrives to see what the fuss is about. Isaac's eyes widen, seeing the face of the man who destroyed his sister's life. The alderman approaches, putting on a show of concern for the grieving boy. But Isaac sees right through the act, knowing the scumbag is hiding his true colors. He offers false comfort, and Gabbin none the wiser thanks him for his kindness. Isaac turns away, knowing there's no point in arguing. No one would ever believe him. Feigning exhaustion, Isaac excuses himself, needing a moment to process. As the sun sets, the sky burns with the memory of the day's fires. Night falls over the forest, bringing a tense and fragile silence. He recalls his first life, how he fled to the mountains after losing his family. Back then, his powers awakened weeks later, purely by a stroke of luck. But this time, he knows the secret, and he can get his magic back in just 2 days. With a new plan in mind, he slips away from the camp under the cover of darkness. He sees the village is even more devastated thanks to Zevald's expanded tantrum. But before he can focus on his powers, there's another rat to deal with. His eyes lock onto his target, the home of the treacherous village alderman. He arrives just in time to hear a desperate cry for help from inside. Gabbin's sister is cornered, trapped by 2 of the alderman's vicious hounds. The beasts snarl, their eyes glowing with malice, ready to attack on command. She can only plead for her life, her hope fading with every passing second. But the alderman grabs her, his words dripping with a vile suggestion. He sneers that no one is coming to save her, his true, monstrous nature on full display. But a new voice cuts through the darkness, calling him out for the vermin he is. The alderman turns, enraged that someone would dare interfere with his fun. And there stands Isaac, his expression promising a world of pain for the traitor. The alderman scoffs, threatening the boy who clearly has no idea who he's messing with. With a single command, the alderman unleashes his vicious hounds. Isaac's eyes widen in panic. He's just a normal kid against 2 beasts. He leaps away, knowing he has to draw the dogs away from Gabbin's sister. He pivots sharply, his movements fluid and practiced despite his weaker body. His battlefield instincts kick in as he narrowly dodges the first attack. Thinking fast, he makes a tactical retreat, slamming a door shut behind him. But the alderman just smirks, completely unfazed by the boy's escape attempt. He grabs a nearby axe, ready to deliver a classic villain monologue. He confesses he orchestrated the death of Isaac's parents just to get to his sister. And now he laughs, deciding he'll just have to kill Isaac himself. But Isaac just scoffs, asking if the villain is done with his little speech. He lays out the entire conspiracy, revealing he knows about the deal with Count Ravel. The alderman is stunned into silence, demanding to know who leaked the information. Isaac's answer is simple and terrifying. The alderman told him himself in another life. He explains that he's already killed him once before, right after a similar confession. And with a chilling smile, he admits he's very much looking forward to a repeat performance. With the conversation over, Isaac lunges forward with blinding speed. The alderman swings his axe, proving to be surprisingly quick on his feet. But to a man with 20 years of combat experience, his moves are laughably predictable. Isaac slips past his guard, his own blade ready to end this once and for all. Isaac's blade cuts deep, drawing first blood in their deadly dance. The alderman stares in disbelief, unable to comprehend the boy's skill. He dismisses the attack as luck and brings his axe down with renewed fury. But Isaac easily sidesteps the blow, countering with a powerful body check. He presses his advantage, his knife a blur of deadly intent. The alderman pants, demanding to know where a peasant boy learned such moves. Isaac coldly informs him that his only concern should be the painful end that's coming. He launches himself into the air, aiming to end the fight with a single decisive kick. But the alderman reveals his trump card. He's a magic user. Because of course he is. A wave of golden energy erupts, sending Isaac flying across the room. Isaac grits his teeth, his mind reeling from the unexpected magical assault. He slammed into the wall, realizing with dawning horror that the alderman wields electricity. He recalls his first life, where killing this man was trivial once his own powers were awakened. The alderman mocks him, revealing that the Count's promises went far beyond a simple title. He was given the ultimate gift, The Count helped him awaken his own magical abilities. We're reminded of the nobles, the tyrants who exploit the common folk for their own gain. Their entire system of oppression is built on a formidable inherited power. By channeling electric currents, they can move with blinding speed and erect powerful barriers. They can weave intricate spells, their sigils glowing with raw, untamed energy, and at their most ruthless, they can turn their enemies to ash with a flick of the wrist. The official story is that this power was a gift from the gods, a divine mandate for nobles to protect humanity from demon hordes. But Isaac knows that's just the propaganda they feed to the masses. The truth is far simpler. Anyone can gain this power with special pills. A secret drug concocted by the nobles to grant the gift of electricity. The alderman confirms the Count's promise was real as power surges through him. He dreams of leaving this village behind and taking his place among the elite. But Isaac just smirks, telling him he's just a disposable pawn in their game. Enraged, the alderman unleashes another blast, tired of the boy's defiance. But Isaac sees the truth. The man is a novice, barely in control of his new abilities. Isaac knows he can beat this amateur, but without his powers, one touch means he's literally toast. He dodges another wild blast, his mind racing to find an opening in the man's sloppy attacks. And then he sees it, a spark of an idea in the corner of the room. A spool of copper wire, a perfect conductor for his opponent's uncontrolled magic. The alderman roars, promising there's nowhere left for the boy to run. With his plan set, Isaac grabs the spool, ready to turn the tables. He knows it's a long shot, a desperate gamble with only one chance to succeed. He quickly ties one end of the wire, laying the first piece of his trap. He sprints across the room, unspooling the wire as the alderman closes in. The other end is secured to a decorative sword and shield, creating a deadly circuit. He loops the wire around a metal doorknob, setting the final piece of his trap. The circuit continues up to a heavy iron chandelier hanging from the ceiling. With everything in place, Isaac just needs his opponent to give him his best shot. A confident smirk spreads across his face. The plan is simple but effective. He taunts the alderman, asking how he can call himself a noble if he can't hit one peasant boy. The man roars in fury, completely falling for the most classic villain bait in the book. He unleashes a massive, uncontrolled blast of golden lightning, tired of the games. Isaac's eyes narrow, knowing this is the exact moment he was waiting for. He hurls the spool of wire directly into the path of the incoming attack. The raw energy strikes the copper, turning Isaac's makeshift trap into a live wire. A spark of triumph lights up Isaac's eyes. His desperate plan is working perfectly. With a final, calculated kick, he sends the spool flying into position. The alderman is caught off guard as the wire courses with his own redirected electricity. The copper web wraps around him, a conductor for his own spectacular downfall. He stumbles, completely outmaneuvered by the boy he dismissed as a mere peasant. Isaac reveals his trap. Every dodge was a chance to spin a web charged by his enemy's attacks. The alderman's face twists in horror, realizing he's been played from the very start. Isaac declares victory as the trap springs, turning the man's power against him. The villain is slammed backward, hopelessly entangled in his own electrified prison. His screams are silenced as he's consumed by the very magic he so arrogantly wielded. The alderman kneels in the wreckage, demanding to know how a mere boy could defeat him. Isaac turns, his expression one of mild annoyance that the man is still breathing. He even admits he's a little surprised the guy survived a self-inflicted electrocution of that magnitude. But as Isaac picks up a knife, the alderman's defiance quickly turns to desperate bargaining. He offers Isaac a place among the nobles, a reward from the Count for his talent. But Isaac's eyes are cold, asking how he dares beg after what he did to his sister. The alderman is confused, insisting he hasn't laid a hand on Madeline. In this timeline anyway. Isaac simply towers over the groveling coward, his patience completely gone. The ghost of his future self materializes behind him, a promise of the vengeance to come. He makes it clear that no matter the life, their encounters will always end the same way. And with a single brutal slash, Isaac makes good on his promise of destruction. The alderman's reign of terror ends in a pool of his own blood on the floor. With the threat neutralized, Isaac turns to Gabin's sister, urging her to escape. But he quickly realizes the poor girl has fainted from the sheer terror of it all. He takes a moment, the weight of his actions settling in the sudden silence. Gently lifting her, he promises to reunite her with her brother, Gabin. But his escape is cut short by the alderman's other security system. He kicks open the door, only to be met by two very angry, very large dogs. Apparently, they're not too happy about their owner's recent termination. But Isaac's eyes are filled with grim resolve. He's not about to fail now. The once vicious hounds now look like they've seen a ghost. Apparently, a change in management was all they needed to behave. Back at the survivors' camp, Gabin is lost in despair, waiting for his friend's return. But a sudden sound from the doorway snaps him out of his grief. He scrambles to his feet, calling out his sister's name as Isaac enters. As Gabin holds his sister, he demands answers, and Isaac's glare says it all. Isaac lays out the ugly truth. The alderman was a traitor working with their enemies. Gabin panics, But Isaac calmly assures him the problem has been permanently solved. He addresses the room, explaining that he has a mission he must complete alone. His eyes burn with resolve as he promises to return, his secret plan already in motion. Isaac's father places a hand on his shoulder, his voice filled with pride. He declares that Count Ravel's tyranny must finally come to an end. Isaac is moved by his father's words, seeing a strength he never got to appreciate. He grips his father's arm, a silent promise passing between them. With renewed resolve, Isaac vows that he won't let his family down this time. His father's smile is all the encouragement he needs, a simple, powerful, "I'm proud of you." With his family safe for now, Isaac begins his solo mission, heading for the mountains. He strides into the wilderness because nothing says secret mission like a dramatic mountain hike. His destination is the summit, a place that holds the key to his lost power. He recalls his first life, how he fled to these same mountains after losing everything. He remembers wandering for weeks, lost in a haze of grief and vengeance. He'd collapsed on this very mountain, taking shelter beneath an old, weathered tree, and that was the moment his entire life changed forever. A bolt of pure, untamed lightning had slammed down from the heavens. He was struck by lightning, which is generally not recommended for your health. But now he knows the secret. This specific tree is a natural lightning rod. He can feel a storm brewing, the air crackling with familiar energy. This time he's not waiting for luck, he's going to force his own awakening. He knows the noble's power isn't a gift from the gods, but a stolen birthright. Every human has the potential to wield this power, they just need a little spark. He knows the secret. A specific part of the brain can be activated to control electricity. To control this power, the nobles created special pills to force an awakening. This ensured a steady supply of powerful users to maintain their grip on the kingdom. But Isaac knows the pills were just a shortcut for a much older method. The original method was far more direct, getting zapped by a bolt from the sky. This natural awakening unlocks far greater power, but it comes with a serious risk. A risk that usually ends with a crispy corpse, which is why the nobles invented a safer way. He remembers his first life, where a random lightning strike gave him his powers by pure chance. A nearby strike confirms the storm is here. Now he just needs to wait for his moment. He closes his eyes, ready to welcome the lightning that will change his fate. Isaac's eyes lock onto the sky as the perfect bolt begins to form. A massive fork of golden energy tears through the clouds, heading straight for him. He roars into the storm, ready to claim the power that will fuel his vengeance. But the lightning slams into the ground beside him, missing its target completely. Isaac can only curse his luck. His one perfect shot was a dud. He knows with grim certainty that another opportunity like this won't come. The storm is already moving on, its epicenter now hovering over a deep chasm. Thinking fast, he anchors a rope to the tree, preparing for a desperate leap. With no other choice, he swings out into the open air, chasing the storm itself. He puts all his faith in a single knot, praying it's enough to carry him to his destiny. He screams at the heavens, questioning if this is some cruel test of his will. He roars that nothing will stop him from getting the revenge he's owed. With a powerful leap, he launches himself from the cliff's edge. He swings out over the abyss, a tiny figure against the vast, stormy sky. And this time, the heavens answer, engulfing him in a torrent of raw power. His eyes burn with golden light as the energy surges through his very being. He endures the agony, his body becoming a conduit for the storm itself. And as the power settles, the scar from his first life begins to reform on his face. The rope that carried him to his destiny smolders, its purpose served. A moment later, a crimson explosion erupts, signaling a successful and very dramatic awakening. He pulls himself from the scorched earth, his body now a vessel for the storm's fury. His mind is consumed by a single burning thought, vengeance. And he roars his promise to the heavens that this time it will be his. Isaac stands on the cliff's edge, feeling the familiar crackle of power in his hand. He recalls his first life, where awakening his magic was only the beginning of a long road. It took him years of painstaking practice to achieve true mastery. But this time he's not some fumbling novice learning the ropes. He has 20 years of experience to skip the tutorial and go straight to the final boss. The very mountainside splits apart, unable to contain his explosive return. He clenches his fist, knowing his quest for revenge has only just begun. Isaac tests his raw power, shattering the very ground he stands on. He smirks, satisfied with the initial results of his dramatic power-up. But raw strength is only one part of the equation. Now it's time to test his speed. He channels the lightning through his body, preparing for a burst of movement. In a flash, he rockets down the mountainside, a living bolt of crimson lightning. He clocks his speed at 100 meters per second, which is apparently just acceptable. With the basics covered, he decides to try summoning his ultimate weapon, his avatar. He focuses all his energy, his eyes burning as he calls forth his spectral beast. And from the heavens descends a tiny, sputtering energy lizard. Well, that's disappointing. He realizes with a sigh that his teenage body can't yet handle his full power. He remembers that avatars are the ultimate expression of power, a manifestation of the wielder's soul. A single warrior with this ability can obliterate entire armies without breaking a sweat. Isaac knows he has a long way to go, but he's found the perfect, peaceful place to train. But his quiet training session is cut short by a familiar voice calling his name. He turns in shock to find his sister, Madeline, has followed him into the mountains. She explains his strange behavior made her suspicious, and she wants to know how he suddenly got so strong. Isaac realizes he can't exactly talk his way out of this one. With a heavy sigh, he decides to tell her the impossible truth. He takes a deep breath, preparing to completely shatter his sister's reality. And then he just drops it on her. He's a time traveler from the future, as one does. Madeline's first reaction is a solid punch, asking if he's really joking at a time like this. Isaac sighs, realizing that "I'm from the future" does sound a little insane out loud. But to his surprise, she completely accepts it, thrilled that her brother is now one of the Awoken. Her mind immediately jumps to the perks, joining the academy, getting rich, and sticking it to the nobles. Isaac has to gently bring his sister back down to earth before she starts planning their retirement. He promises to protect her with his life, but insists his powers must remain a secret for now. He tries to explain the danger they're in, but she cuts him off with a reassuring word. With a warm smile, she tells him she trusts him completely. After all, he's already saved them. She then casually asks if the jagged new mark on his face is going to be permanent. Isaac panics, realizing with horror that the lightning gave him the exact same scar as his first life. And so, under the quiet watch of the mountain peaks, his training begins. He has 20 years of experience, but a body that needs to catch up. He focuses, channeling the raw power that now flows through his veins. And with his sister as his surprisingly enthusiastic training partner, the real work starts. She hurls a volley of stones, a simple but effective test of his reflexes. His task is to see them, track them, and dodge every single one. His eyes narrow, his battlefield instincts kicking into high gear. He moves like a blur, his body wreathed in crimson lightning. He's getting faster, but perfection is still just out of reach. Madeline notes his progress is unnatural, as if he's done this his whole life. If only she knew. Madeline asks to be let down from her perch, but Isaac is all business. She's not letting him off the hook until he hits every single target. She complains that she's been stuck up there for hours as the drill continues. He moves in a flash of crimson light, destroying every projectile with precision. With a confident smirk, he declares the task complete and immediately ups the difficulty. He reflects on his initial despair, believing this second chance was a cruel punishment. But the week of intense training with his sister has been enlightening. Seeing her alive and happy has given him a new, powerful sense of purpose. These quiet moments of peace are a stark contrast to his first lonely life. And at the end of each day, he realizes this second chance might be a gift after all. He reflects that this second chance is the best thing to happen in 20 years. He knows a reunion with Silas is inevitable, but there's another score to settle first. His thoughts turn to the Revels, the family responsible for all his suffering. In his first life, he was never able to get justice for his family. His rank and their grand plan to dismantle the system from within stayed his hand, a plan that now feels like a bitter, foolish joke. But now there are no politics, no grand schemes, only raw power. He forges a blade of pure energy, a promise of the vengeance to come. The mountain itself trembles as he unleashes a torrent of destructive force. He makes a new vow. This time, there will be no subtlety. His first target is Castle Revel, the heart of his enemy's domain. He scales the fortress walls in a blur of crimson energy. Moving like a phantom, he lands without making a sound. The castle is heavily guarded, but they never even see him coming. But for a man who can move like a living bolt of lightning, these guards might as well be standing completely still. Inside, the castle staff rushes to prepare the evening meal. The head chef screams at his underlings, terrified of keeping the nobles waiting. Isaac watches from the shadows. Dinner time is the perfect opportunity, and a group of bored guards is about to make his wish come true. They complain about the alderman's broken promise to deliver them young women. But one of them cuts in with some breaking news. The alderman is dead. The others are shocked, but their only concern is for their disgusting prize. From above, Isaac confirms these are the men who plan to harm his sister and Hannah. His eyes burn with cold fury. He's about to introduce them to their new stone companion. A flash of crimson energy cuts through the night, silent and deadly. The gargoyle he was perched on springs to life, animated by his rage. It slams into the first guard with the force of a battering ram. The survivors can only stare in horror, blaming a loose statue for the attack. As they confirm their friend's demise, they have no idea the real monster is still watching. The guards dismiss the incident, completely oblivious to the real falling object, their life expectancy. But before they can even move, another guard is taken out by a silent crimson blur. With the immediate threat neutralized, Isaac believes his path is now clear. But he knows he can't just wander aimlessly through the castle's maze of towers. He channels his crimson lightning, preparing to scale the tower in a single bound. In a flash of pure energy, he rockets up the stone wall, leaving a trail of red light. From the top, he finally spots his target, the Count's personal quarters. Without a moment's hesitation, he leaps across the rooftops towards his goal. He decides to work his way down, a systematic approach to his one-man siege. He quickly finds a heavily guarded door, certain the Count is just on the other side. His hand crackles with crimson energy as he vows to make the Count pay for his crimes. The guards don't even have time to finish their challenge before he strikes. He descends from above in a flash of lightning, far too fast for them to comprehend. With a single touch, he channels his power directly into the guard's weapon. The soldier can only scream as he's overwhelmed by the raw, untamed energy. Isaac calmly relieves the man of his sword, since he won't be needing it anymore. He crashes the party, announcing his presence to the Count and his son. His eyes burn with cold fury as he tells the noble it's time to pay his butcher's bill. But Count Ravel just glances over, looking more bored than threatened. Zivald smugly sips his drink as if he'd been expecting company all along. Zivald smirks, having predicted the alderman's killer would come knocking. But the Count doubts a mere peasant could have killed their magical pawn. He theorizes that Isaac must have stolen the alderman's awakening pills. Zivald then makes a crude joke, asking if the pills are working as advertised. Isaac's patience wears thin as the noble's taunts become even more vile. The entire family erupts in laughter, their contempt for commoners on full display. To them, he's nothing more than an insect to be swatted away. But Isaac is done playing games, confirming he killed their traitorous pawn. Zivald just smugly collects on a bet. Apparently, betrayal is a family sport. The Count yawns, admitting his son has a better grasp on the peasant mindset. The Count continues his rant, mocking the savagery of the common folk. But his monologue is cut short by a flash of crimson energy across his table. Isaac asks the Count if he's familiar with a certain unflattering nickname. He reveals the high nobles in the capital call him the pot-bellied pig. Isaac recalls from his first life how the elite loved to mock the provincial lords. The Count's eyes glow with fury, his pride stung by the peasant's words. Isaac then includes the Countess, calling them a pair of pigs. Turns out even tyrants get bullied. The Countess is enraged, her own magical power flaring to life. She unleashes a massive blast of golden energy, promising to burn him alive. But when the smoke clears, Isaac stands completely unharmed by her attack. Isaac smirks, taunting her with a vile name and asking if that's all she's got. The Countess is stunned, her mind refusing to accept that he's completely unharmed. She decides to up the ante, preparing to unleash the full force of her magic. But Isaac is already one step ahead, his hand a blur of crimson lightning. Her eyes widen as she realizes something is terribly wrong with her own power. The Count explains her fatal flaw. She's a novice who skipped all the safety tutorials. He can only scream his wife's name, completely helpless to stop what's coming. Isaac knows that all it takes is a single spark to turn her power into a bomb. And with a flick of his wrist, he detonates the unstable energy in a massive explosion. The Count can only watch in horror as his wife is consumed by her own magic. Zivald screams in horror, his mother's name a desperate, furious cry. He stares at her fallen form, demanding to know what Isaac has done. But Isaac is already behind the Count, promising a swift family reunion. Enraged, Zivald unleashes his own golden lightning, refusing to let a peasant win. But Isaac meets the attack head-on, his crimson power clashing with the noble's gold. His battlefield instincts scream a warning. The Count is attacking from behind. He dodges just in time as two blasts of energy collide where he just stood. The Count taunts him, unimpressed by the boy's desperate evasive maneuvers. He slowly approaches, lecturing Isaac on the folly of challenging his betters. The Count gathers his own power, preparing to end this little peasant uprising himself. The Count promises to burn Isaac's village to the ground, his own power flaring to life. But Isaac just smirks, ready to deliver a little story time to the piggies. He declares that the wolf is finally at the door, and it's time to collect. Zivald screams for his mother, lunging forward in a blind, vengeful rage. But to a man with 20 years of combat experience, the attack is laughably slow. He effortlessly sidesteps the blow, finding the whole display rather pathetic. He knows their pill-induced magic is no match for his naturally awakened power, but a beam of purple energy cuts through the air, reminding him this is a 2-on-1 fight. He realizes that taking on both father and son at once might actually be a challenge. The Count is a veteran, timing his attacks perfectly to catch Isaac off balance. The Count shouts for his son to strike while Isaac is distracted. He lunges forward, his own magic ready to crush the boy from behind. But Isaac stands his ground, ready to take on both of them at once. His eyes burn with power, his focus absolute. He catches both attacks simultaneously, a living shield against their combined might. With a single decisive blow, he declares checkmate on the stunned Count. He then turns his attention to Zivald. his grip like an iron vice. He mocks their claim of divine right, his hand crackling with deadly intent. And with a final, brutal blast, he decides it's time to wash away their sins. The Count can only scream in horror as his son is consumed by the crimson storm. The Count roars in fury, his own purple magic flaring to life. He unleashes a massive wave of energy, intending to obliterate the boy. But when the dust settles, Isaac stands completely unharmed. The Count demands to know who this monster is that has invaded his home. Isaac's answer sends a chill down the nobleman's spine. He's just a peasant. A nobody who has suffered under the Count's cruelty his entire life. And now he's finally decided that enough is enough. The Count finally understands, realizing Isaac's power is from a natural awakening. He laments that this peasant boy has taken everything from him. But Isaac just smirks, telling him he's merely cleaned out the pigsty. The Count roars in defiance, warning that the nobles will never forgive this. He insists that killing him will only sign Isaac's own death warrant. But Isaac's eyes are cold and unwavering, completely unmoved by the threat. The Count points to the pendant on his chest, the symbol of his noble authority. Isaac just scoffs, snatching the cheap jewelry right off the Count's neck. The Count scrambles on the floor, screaming that a peasant is unworthy to touch the blood droplet. He continues his desperate threats, promising the high nobles will hunt Isaac down. But Isaac just calmly examines the pendant, telling the Count not to be so sure. His own crimson power reflects in the gem, a promise of a new order, and he declares that this time, he will be the one doing the hunting. And with a final brutal slash, Isaac ends the Count's reign of terror. With the Ravel family gone, their castle now has a new, very angry owner. But Isaac's work isn't done. He's on the hunt for the castle's true treasure. His mind is set on a single prize, a rare mineral known as arcanite. It's a precious ore used by nobles to amplify their electrical powers, and Isaac recalls the Count boasting that his lands were rich with the stuff. He's certain the old pig hoarded a massive supply in his personal chamber. He quickly finds the room in a very suspicious-looking treasure chest. Forgoing the need for a key, he simply blasts the lock open with his magic. But inside, he finds only a single solitary piece of the precious ore. Talk about a letdown. Isaac curses the Count's poor hoarding skills. He'd hoped for enough arcanite to forge a weapon. But this tiny sliver is a far cry from the legendary blade he needs to craft. Still, with the Ravels gone, he knows his village has a brief window of peace. It will take time for the nobles to send a replacement, especially with the chaos he's planning. He's certain the capital will soon have far bigger problems than one remote province. This means his family will be safe while he enrolls in the academy, which is a solid long-term plan. He can't wait to see their faces when he tells them he's one of the Awoken. His thoughts drift back to his first life, a grim reminder of how different things were. Back then, he'd stumbled down the mountain, believing he'd just been electrocuted. He barely made it back to the village before collapsing in a daze. He remembers the villagers rushing to his aid, finding him weak and disoriented. They'd called out his name, worried for his safety as he tried to brush it off. And in that moment, he'd summoned his very first uncontrolled spark of magic. The entire village had celebrated, hailing him as their new protector. He was their hope, a noble born from their own ranks to shield them from tyranny. Back in the present, he smiles, eager to see their faces this time around. But his smile fades as he realizes the village is completely unnervingly silent. His mind races with the worst possibilities, wondering if another attack has come. He moves in a flash of crimson energy, abandoning all attempts at a casual entrance. Bursting into his home, he screams for his sister and friend, his heart pounding with dread. He steps into the village square, finding it eerily quiet and devoid of any struggle. But the silence is shattered by the sound of a surprise celebration. Isaac is completely stunned as the entire village erupts in a chorus of cheers. They swarm him with questions, hailing him as their new noble protector. His mother beams with pride, asking for a demonstration of his newfound abilities. Isaac shoots a glare at his sister, reminding her this was supposed to be a secret. Madeline sheepishly admits she only told 1 or 2 people, plus the rest of the village. The local children gather around, their eyes wide with wonder and a million questions. Their imaginations run wild with tales of his godlike power, begging for a show. Isaac tries to gently let them down, but the crowd's excitement is impossible to contain. He's stunned to see even the adults are joining in, begging for just a little spark. With a weary sigh, Isaac relents, agreeing to show them a few party tricks. Crimson lightning crackles to life in his palm, a familiar and dangerous energy. He shapes the power into a galloping horse, dazzling the crowd with a simple light show. The villagers erupt in cheers, their new hero's name echoing through the square. But the celebration is cut short by the sound of heavy, approaching footsteps. A new voice calls his name, and Isaac turns to face the unexpected visitor. A massive wolf-clad warrior emerges, identifying Isaac as the newly awoken. His eyes are cold as he reveals he knows who is strong enough to kill the alderman. Isaac recognizes him instantly, Rashak, the infamous leader of the Silver Wolves. Well, so much for keeping a low profile. Rashak reveals the alderman was a former Silver Wolf, a fact that complicates things. And he's here to uphold their honor by killing the man who took him down. Isaac doesn't deny it for a second, admitting he's the one who ended the traitor. Rashak actually agrees, admitting their former comrade was a scumbag. But a code is a code, and he's honor-bound to avenge him anyway. But Isaac's attention is drawn to the gem embedded in the sword's hilt. He recognizes it instantly, the rare arcanite he's been searching for. Rashak smirks, then slams his fist onto the gem, activating its power. The blade ignites with energy as he formally challenges Isaac to a duel to the death. The villagers try to pull him to safety, but Isaac has no intention of backing down. Isaac notes his opponent is strong, but without noble blood, he can't wield electricity. He ignores Gabon's frantic protests and borrows a pitchfork for the coming duel. He calmly reassures his friend that being an awoken changes the rules a bit. With his eyes locked on the arcanite sword, Isaac accepts the challenge without hesitation. He tries to move the fight to a safer location, but Rashak has other, more immediate plans. The Silver Wolf leader wastes no time, unleashing a devastating first strike. Isaac parries the blow, realizing his opponent is using the crowd as a human shield. He screams for the villagers to get back, his concern for them overriding his focus. He's forced to fight defensively, unable to unleash his full destructive power. Rashak mocks his hesitation, knowing the boy is afraid of electrocuting his own people. Isaac realizes this isn't Rashak's first rodeo. The man knows how to fight an awoken. He plants his feet, digging the pitchfork into the dirt for leverage. With a quick pivot, he prepares to turn the tables on his opponent. He knows he can't risk unleashing a wide-area attack with civilians nearby, but he can still channel his power directly into the pitchfork, turning it into a deadly weapon. Rashak is impressed, complimenting the boy's skill as their weapons collide. Isaac ducks under a powerful swing, his movements fluid and precise. He knows that without magic, Rashak's movements are predictable to a trained eye. With a roar, Isaac goes on the offensive, ready to end this little duel. He hurls the electrified pitchfork, turning a simple farm tool into a lightning-fast projectile. But Rashak easily parries the blow, unimpressed by the boy's first real attack. Isaac's eyes narrow. He knows this fight is far from over. He realizes he can't use his full speed without endangering the innocent villagers, but a new plan forms, a way to control his explosive power. He uses the pitchfork as an anchor, pivoting with incredible controlled speed. Rashak is caught off guard, surprised by the boy's sudden tactical shift. Isaac unleashes a powerful slash, forcing the Silver Wolf leader onto the defensive. He sees his chance, planting the pitchfork in the dirt to create a launch point. With a powerful leap, he aims a decisive blow at his opponent's exposed back. But Isaac's eyes widen in disbelief as his attack simply bounces off harmlessly. Rashak compliments the boy's strength, but reveals he has a few tricks of his own. The wolf pelt on his armor suddenly transforms into a living, breathing animal. Isaac's eyes widen as he realizes what he's looking at. It's a full suit of arcanite armor, and its wearer has a title, Rashak the Noble Slayer. He promises to show Isaac the true, terrifying power of the rare mineral. With a powerful strike to his own chest, he activates the armor's hidden ability. The arcanite absorbs the impact, releasing a surge of stored electricity. He then reveals he stole all this precious ore from none other than Count Ravel. And he roars that once he's done with Isaac, he's coming for the Count himself. He boasts that Isaac will be the 6th lightning freak to join his kill list. Isaac feels the immense power radiating from his opponent's armor. Rashak moves with blinding speed, slamming his blade down with explosive force. But Isaac's focus is split. The entire village is watching from the sidelines. He knows he can't unleash his full power without risking innocent lives. His family can only watch in terror, their hopes pinned on their new protector. Rashak's skill with the arcanite armor is clearly on another level, but Isaac sees a weakness, a way to turn that borrowed power against its wielder. We get a quick lesson on arcanite, the most valuable ore in the world. Its unique properties allow it to store and amplify electrical energy, a secret the nobles have used for generations to enhance their weapons and armor. But for those without the gift, the ore is a ticking time bomb. Overload its capacity, and it detonates with spectacular, user-unfriendly results. Isaac smirks, realizing Rashak's armor is probably running on a dollar store battery. Rashak is impressed, complimenting the kid on his surprising durability. He continues his assault, admitting Isaac has already outlasted his other victims. As Rashak monologues about his tragic past, Isaac's mind is already on the solution. The Silver Wolf leader swore an oath to wipe every last noble from the earth. And since Isaac is now one of the Awoken, he's officially on the chopping block. But Isaac has a plan, planting his hand on the ground to prepare his counterattack. Rashak leaps in for the kill, promising Isaac will be no exception to his crusade. Rashak leaps into the air, promising to split Isaac in two. But Isaac sees his chance, knowing he has to go all out to seize it. Rashak laughs, impressed that Isaac is putting up a better fight than his previous victims. He brings his blade down for the killing blow, but Isaac's timing must be perfect. He waits, his eyes locked on the descending blade, for the perfect moment to act. And at the last possible second, he catches the warrior's wrist, stopping the blow. Rishak scoffs, mocking the boy for choosing to block instead of dodge. He thinks it's a fatal mistake, but Isaac is just getting started. With a calm expression, Isaac declares that the fight is already over. His eyes burn with crimson light as he reveals his true advantage, skill over brute force. He reveals his trump card. He's been juicing the Arcanite with his own power. A direct injection of raw energy, far more than the armor was ever meant to hold. Rishak can only scream as the borrowed power turns against him in a violent surge. He's blasted backward, consumed by the very energy he thought he controlled. The overload detonates in a massive explosion, shaking the entire village square. When the dust settles, the Noble Slayer's legendary sword clatters to the ground. Rishak gasps, his body completely fried by the uncontrolled electrical feedback. He collapses to his knees, his armor now just a very expensive smoking paperweight. Isaac sighs, knowing it takes years of training to handle that kind of raw power. His friends rush forward, calling his name in a mix of relief and concern. The villagers rush to Isaac's side, their relief palpable. But Rishak can only stare, his mind refusing to process his defeat. He demands to know how a mere boy could have bested him. Isaac calmly explains he simply turned the warrior's own power against him. The Noble Slayer is stunned by the simple, brutal efficiency of the tactic. He accepts his fate, asking Isaac to grant him a warrior's end. With a weary smile, he opens his arms, ready for the final blow. But Isaac just closes his eyes and gives him a hard pass. Rishak's eyes widen in disbelief, completely thrown by the refusal. He roars that Isaac can't deny him an honorable death. Apparently there are rules for this sort of thing. Isaac explains he's not a mercenary. He follows a different, more noble code. He calls it the Code of the Protectors, a rulebook he's clearly writing on the fly, a code which states that the loser must become the winner's loyal vassal. He points at the stunned warrior, laying out the terms of his surrender. And he declares that Rishak, the legendary Noble Slayer, must now serve him. Rishak is taken aback, wondering how this kid knows so much about him. Isaac leans in, revealing they have a common, all-consuming goal. A shared desire to see the entire corrupt nobility burned to the ground. Isaac adds that a man of his skill would be a valuable asset to the cause. And with a pat on the chest, he gives the warrior his first official order: protect this village. Isaac lays out his plan. The Silver Wolves will protect his home while he goes to the capital. He's heading there to prepare a special kind of welcome for the corrupt nobility. Rishak considers the boy's words, seeing the same fire for vengeance in his eyes. With a nod of respect, the legendary Noble Slayer accepts his new mission. He makes a solemn vow, a promise sealed with a warrior's honor. As long as he draws breath, no harm will come to this village or its people. But Isaac has one final, rather bold request for his new vassal. He casually informs Rishak that he'll be borrowing his legendary sword. For keeps. He explains that the Arcanite gem embedded in the hilt is exactly what he needs. And so, Isaac takes the precious ore and forges a new weapon in the heart of the flames. He explains his design choice, a custom job to better channel his electrical power. He's basically inventing the next decade of military tech, giving himself a serious head start. With a quick wrap of the hilt, his new weapon is ready for the road. He sheathes the blade, a symbol of his new path and the vengeance it will bring. With his home now safe, Isaac bids a heartfelt farewell to his entire village. His sister, his friends, and even his new vassal Rishak are there to see him off. His family waves goodbye, their faces filled with pride and hope for his journey. The entire community wishes him well, their faith now resting on his shoulders. He gives them one last confident grin, promising to return as soon as he can. And with that, Isaac walks away, his solo mission finally underway. With his new sword on his back, Isaac sets out on the long road ahead. His expression is one of grim determination. His journey has only just begun. His destination is the Academy, the same place his first life's quest started. But this time, he's arriving with his powers already mastered, ready to meet his future comrades. And it's there he will once again meet the man he considered his brother, the ultimate traitor, and the final target of his vengeance, Silas Montfort.